In today's episode, we're going to discuss the importance of authentic marketing strategies tailored for your specific salon and beauty brand. So, if you're a salon owner, you're going to discover the significance of prioritizing quality over quantity in social media posts. And you're also going to get the benefits of effectively communicating your exceptional customer service. So, you're going to discover how to establish a strong brand presence while cultivating long-lasting relationships with your customers. Salon owners, also make sure that you check in the show notes for your free holistic salon audit. And this is going to support you on your journey to creating your holistic salon. Plus, there's a little bit of a bonus in there, and you get the Clean Beauty Advisor as a little bonus. So make sure you check the show notes and download that resource. Welcome to the Salon Owners Holistic Blueprint, your podcast for unlocking the secrets to a thriving salon business through holistic practices. I'm Jacqueline Rodriguez, your host, and join me each week as we explore wellness, sustainability, and business success. Everything from attracting conscious clients to adopting eco-friendly practices. We're going to cover it all to elevate your salon business. So welcome back to another episode. Thank you again, Lindsay and Kate, for being a part of this. And today we are going to dive into all things marketing for your salon and as a beauty brand, and what are we actually putting out there, and where do we even start, right? We're just going to have a frank conversation about marketing and go from there. So welcome again.
Thank you. I am Kate from Dip. We make salon level shampoo and conditioner bars that aim to take people away from the fast to consume bottled brands.
And I'm Lindsay McCoy. I'm co-founder and CEO of Plain Products. And we complement Kate in that we also are trying to move away people from disposable plastic bottles, but we offer personal care and aluminum bottles. And then we take the bottles back and wash and reuse them. And then we work with salons and refill shops by offering bulk products so people can get refills in their, right in their neighborhood.
I love it. Well, thank you both. And both of their products are amazing, and they're amazing humans. You've seen them on the series quite a bit. So today we're going to talk about that really interesting piece we touched on in one of the other episodes of marketing and what are we supposed to be putting out there. I had a client who was asking me, she gets burnt out by social media because there's a lot to do, and there's just so much misinformation of how many times you're supposed to put out there, and what are you actually putting out on social media to, one, actually gain clients and not just a fake following, right? So because that's such a real thing. I don't want to be on social media and post a bunch of stuff just to get a follower. I want people to come on and actually convert into clients and create those relationships. So I'd love to hear what you both think about all of that.
I post not very often in comparison to other brands out there, and I don't really subscribe to any of the traditional thinking out there with social media. And what I try and do is I try and limit my posting, because I don't think anyone needs to hear from a shampoo and conditioner company every day. There's no human on earth that needs to hear from me every day. And I humble myself that way. And I'm like, okay, it's okay if you miss a day. I've tested it out where I haven't posted in 2 weeks and it doesn't make a discernible difference in sales. Right. And so what that teaches me, and if I give everyone a kind of the permission to try that experiment. If you don't post on social media for 2 weeks, just check your sales and see if it really does that much. And then you ground yourself and realize that it's not as important as everyone's kind of been bombarding you to think. Right. So I think it's so important to where a lot of people in the industry are women. That means we don't exist as just a workhorse or a mom or a sister or a best friend. We have a lot of things going on. Also, most of us are responsible for the grocery shopping and all these other tasks that take up a big part of our day. So social media in general, I suggest everyone just kind of give themselves the grace to take a break And when I do post, I think, okay, for me in Dip, my audience is twofold, right? It's the stores and salons that carry us. And then it's also the end consumer. But more often than not, if you look at Dip through this new lens, knowing that, you'll see that a lot of things that I post are intentionally made so that our retail partners and our salon owners can share it to their stories and add value to their customers. So it's a different way of approaching it instead of like a purely D2C strategy for social media. But it's important when you are posting to like figure out who it is you're really trying to reach. And for me, I'm trying to reach the people that already shop at refill stores, at their salon, or at a surf shop. That's kind of my it's more than 2 cents. It's a lot of sense on that on that topic.
And her marketing is great. I mean, I think Dip has such a good voice.
Thank
Like when I see her, something like, oh yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's a little like sassy. It's got a vibe, which I love. I will say we have also tried to move towards quality over quantity a little bit. Try to say something when we post, not just post to post. I joke that sometimes you can't even tell that we're like a shampoo company because we also try and talk about other, just provide general information around sustainability and clean ingredients and not feeling guilty, progress over perfection. Like it's okay to grab a Gatorade on your way to your son's soccer practice. That's not the end of the world. I think the other thing that we've really learned is, authenticity is key. What you were saying, Jackie, like don't go for a high follower account and don't go for influencers just because they have a high follower account. I mean, to us, what matters is like the engagement, the shares, the saves, the people actually interacting and with the post or the story or whatever, and it having some impact on them, that they take a hot second to say, oh, this is cool, or this is great, or I learned something. Like that's what matters more than just like every day making sure something's up.
Yeah, and I like what you do. You guys have a lot of lifestyle stuff on your especially on your TikTok. I notice you have cool, like just surrounding. It's like sustainable adjacent, I would call it, right? It's different lifestyle maneuvers that can just make you more sustainable. And I always think that that's really cool and interesting about your feed.
Yeah, well, I'm not cool enough to pull off the hip thing. So yes, it's the nonprofit girl in me, the environmental educator, that I'm like, people need to know all of these other things. And again, but I think that's the voice. I mean, I think that's that part of having an online identity, or a brand voice. And sadly mine is not super hip, but it's at least hopefully informative and helpful and positive.
Whole thing is we've gotten so like taught that we're supposed to have like this is your online voice and it has to be so perfect and everything. I honestly, like, I prefer accounts who are just kind of show me who you are. Like, I don't need it to be perfect and polished. I want to know exactly who that person is and what they are doing outside of, just the business. Like, but it obviously pertains to that, right? So, like, with our account, we'll talk about things that I'm doing outside, again, educational basis, right? Because obviously we do hair, and that's our biggest thing for the salon account. We do hair. And then I still talk about recycling at home and how to set things up and become like have cleaner brands. Yes, that helps with the brand and the salon, but it's more educational piece where people can take things away and say, okay, like I learned something, and they're nice people and they're relatable and it's not this perfect thing. And if you are just really true to who you are, I feel like you attract those people who then do actually turn into clients versus these big followers. Because that game is, first, it's exhausting. Second, it doesn't do anything. Like, I'm on social media to create relationships and create clients, not to spend my time on social media because there's so many other things I'd rather be doing.
Yeah. And just to put it in perspective for anyone feeling the pressure to grow followers, back in 2020, I had another brand. It was called Nope, Noap, and it was on TikTok. We had about 400,000 followers on TikTok. It never did anything for sales. Ever.
Yeah.
Never did anything. So I know 2023 or 2024 now, TikTok is different than what it was in 2020 and 2021. But it honestly, like, this virality is overrated. It doesn't compel people to buy. And so if you just, anyone who's listening to this that thinks that, like, if I had more followers, I'd have more sales, it doesn't mean anything. And that's why I just do whatever I can to attract our core audience. And even now, I just tested my first sponsored ad post ever, and it was with Reductress, which is like it's like the feminist version of The Onion. And like we did like a little test post, and again, it got interest, but I don't know, and it might have a ripple effect of like sales eventually, but it in genuine, like, within the first 3 days of the post, didn't really do much for sales. It did a little for awareness, but I don't think that's how people shop. I honestly think shopping is human to human recommendations over anything else. And that's why you'll see sometimes if I'm just busy, like, the social accounts are just idle, but it doesn't stop people from recommending it in real life.
Well, yeah, because they use it and then they tell their friends about it. And I also learned, like, going on, because I'll look at other brands. Obviously, I go on social media and I want to check them out. And I used to think, right, this is the old way of thinking of, oh, they only have like 500 followers or 1,000. Like, it must not be that great. Absolutely wrong. Right? That means actually nothing. And that's why it's so important to go outside of the social media world and take a look at what they're doing off of social media. What
Right.
is their website? What is their, like, if you're close to their shops, because like some of them I can't actually go experience it, but you can see on so many other different ways. And then that will actually show you who they are behind the scenes.
Or I think even like getting into some of the posts and seeing, like, are people commenting? Are they commenting back? Is it a real person running it? Do they have relationships with any of their followers? I mean, that to me, when we're looking at different things, matters so much more. Early on, we had, when we were tiny, had somebody with like 3 million followers be like, hey, I'll try your stuff. And we were so excited. And then literally, like, all the comments in the post were like, love your pants. Such a cute, but like they just didn't hear the message at all because they were the wrong people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it the case, but like, it just doesn't matter if 3 million people see it, if they're not interested in your message, if they're not interested in what you're doing, if that's not the person, if there's no connection between you and the people watching, it doesn't matter how many people see it.
Do you know who it really affects is like 11 to 13-year-olds, right? Like, and that's why you see this problem at Sephora right now. It doesn't affect like grown women. Like, we're not, just because someone else is using something that looks like it's been paid for, we're not following and chasing and seeing, we're just not doing, we might click a little bit.
I noticed none of us have a Stanley Cup at the moment. So.
Yeah, I know. I know. If your cup is the most interesting thing about you, go ahead, buy it. Right?
Thank you for joining today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed the training. And if you have any questions about anything I talked about in today's training, or honestly, anything I've talked about on this podcast, I want you to go to www.cleanbeautybiz.com/advisor, or you can click the link in the show notes where you can ask me any questions you have about this episode or anything else that I have covered on this podcast. Again, that link is www.cleanbeautybiz.com, and this amazing little tool allows you to get your specific questions answered by me 24/7.
But I will say, I mean, in successful, and Kate, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too. I mean, again, having personal connections, email, like being able to directly communicate with people in some way that's not reliant on a platform.
Yes.
to me is the most important thing. I mean, if Instagram or whatever was to go down, you don't, or you get locked out, what you see happening to people or whatever, you want to have something that you can control, that you can get in touch with your people. And that is, like, to me, the most important thing you can do marketing wise.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, email is pretty strong. It's the problem for me anyway, is people don't have to buy my stuff very often. So like, like you sell them a shampoo and a conditioner bar, like they don't need to hear from us for like 6 months, and it's timed that way. Like I don't talk to but they do know, like a lot of our customers understand that whenever they get an email from Dip, they can reply. It comes right to me as the owner. And that is like very helpful just because like not everyone buys stuff from a store owner, right? Like sometimes they want to say something great or something totally like kind of gnarly at you about like your products. And it's nice to be able to diffuse that per human to human instead of throwing them in like an AI tailspin customer service, or like, or, I guess the other thing that people go online and start blasting you on their social media. And we all know that social media, if the outrage gets all of the attention, outrage like is the currency on social media.
This episode is brought to you by the Holistic Salon Academy. At the Academy, you gain access to knowledge, tools, and a thriving community you need to excel in the clean, green, and sustainable beauty business. By joining the Holistic Salon Academy, you become a pioneer in a new era of beauty and wellness.
I am shocked at how often
Oh.
something and they seem furious, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be furious too. I'm so sorry that and they're like, oh, you responded. Like, that's amazing. You acknowledge and you want to fix it. And not every time. I mean, there are people who just want to be mad and they don't care, but most of the time, immediately diffuses the situation. They're happy. It's great.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, have you seen, there's a commercial. It's like this lady walks in and she's so mad. She walks up to the counter and she's like, I did not like this product, blah, blah, blah. And the lady goes, oh yeah, no problem. Here, we'll take great care of you. And she's like kind of taken back and she's like, wait, but I want to. And so then the person behind the counter was like, you want to go ahead and get it out of your system? Like, you're just angry. And she's like, yeah. Yeah, and this and so she keeps on, and then she goes, but thank you, and like is resolved and everything's taken care of. But sometimes people just need to get it out, but they're not expecting for you to be human on the other end and relate with them, like try to actually take care of this situation, instead of so many business owners like just put it right back on the customer and be like, it's your problem. So that was a commercial.
I know that commercial is awesome. I always try, and if someone has like an issue with something that they've bought from me, and I always over apologize, because I think it's not that the customer is always right, but the customer feels right, and so, and that is very important when you go into any of these conversations, is like, they feel right. Otherwise they wouldn't be reacting that way, even if you don't agree with that feeling or that interpretation of something. And so it's easier to really deal with it in a human way. And it's very inexpensive to deal with it in a human way. You know what I mean? Like,
That's what I was gonna say.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's so much cheaper to just to have your money back. Here, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it, than it is to then have to go and find all of the places where they've said awful things about you all over the internet. And I would much rather have somebody say, well, I didn't love their stuff, but you know what? They were great about it, than I didn't love their stuff and they were complete jerks about it. I wouldn't ever, buy anything else from.
Well, it's all about perspective and how we actually treat each other, right? It's their perspective is they may not have liked the product, or in the salon, for instance, like when they come in, if we didn't deliver 9 times out of the 10, it's because of a lack of communication. Now, you guys don't get the communication because it's a product, but we do.
Well, we get the communication.
Yeah, the communication, I guess, beforehand, right? So as a salon owner and a stylist, we have a full consultation. beforehand. And most of the times when we haven't delivered something, it's because of a breakdown and lack of communication, right? And that's when somebody comes to us with a problem or they didn't like it or something like that, like 9 times out of 10, because we are the professionals. We have the solution to know how to communicate. And you've got to communicate on many different levels because every human is so different and they receive information so differently. So making sure that we take responsibility in that and make it right. Like human to human, I care, right? I care about your experience. I want you to be happy. I don't care about the money as much as I want you to be happy because you're another human who paid for a service and it should be the way that you want it. And, if there is a breakdown, then it's on us and we should be able to then make it right. And I think that's so different because most people don't get that. It is the immediate, I'm the business owner, I'm right, you didn't listen to me, blah, 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 that whole story. And that just never does well for anyone.
My favorite thing to get from a company is a copy pasted customer service paragraph. That is like, it gets under my skin so much because why is that a cost you're trying to save? Like, why are you trying to save that cost? Even if you're even someone, there's so many other ways to deal with that than just a copy paste. And especially if you explain what the actual issue is, and then they come back with the same paragraph again, and you're just like, ugh, like, this is like why people want to shop small. This is why people want to engage with smaller companies now. They don't want this. They don't want this like shield between the people responsible for the decision that made you upset and the products.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than we'll be happy to get back to you in the next 48 hours to 1 week. I'm like, no. How long can it look at it and answer, or within a day at least? I mean, I agree. If you're going to spend money, customer service is, so important. And I'm sure that's part of the salon too, of having a customer facing person to answer the phone, to reschedule the appointments, to do all of those things, because it really matters.
It matters.
Yeah.
How do you handle lost packages by the USPS?
We just say, sure, we'll replace it. And, we do have customer service software that does show like older emails. So we do kind of keep an eye on to make sure that it's not, a recurring situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're like, okay, yeah, that happens. I mean, packages get stolen, UPS loses things. Like, you just kind of got to eat it, in my opinion.
I agree. I also let the customer know that it's upsetting for both of us.
Yeah.
Because the inventory lost to lost packaging is so high. Like, it's insane how much loss happens because the USPS just doesn't deliver, or they mark something delivered, but they'll mark it delivered, but because they reuse tracking numbers, apparently that's how I've heard described, that sometimes things don't show up for 3 to 4 days, even though it's been marked delivered. And once I found that out, I'm able to diffuse a lot of those situations. I'm like, hey, 99% of the time, this package will show up within 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
Just have some patience with me. It stinks for both of us, but like, if it doesn't, no matter what, you're going to get your stuff.
And again, I think that's, what Jackie was saying about communication.
Yeah.
Respond, explain, I mean, sorry, like, people are like, where is it? I'm like, I don't know either. I am also trying to find out, because yes, I also care. This is also costing us money, but like, they don't give us any special insight just because we're paying for it as to where things are or what's going on.
Yeah. And I would say, for anyone that has a salon or a brand, or anyone who's listening, we used to have a chat box on our website, and I actually took it off for my own mental health, because people would come into the chat only assuming that there was going to be a robot on the other side. So the way people talk to a robot is way different than people like would talk to me like on the street. And or they would assume I was whatever, like low level employee, whatever that means. Right. And like, they would talk to me in such a harsh way that I was like, you know what? they can email me. I can respond on my own time also. So if anyone has salon owner, whatever, has the chat box, it's just not necessary. People can wait.
I think that also falls under the under promise and over deliver, because I think you see the chatbot and you expect things immediately. I think if you let people email or call in and then you actually get back to them that day, like that's a more positive interaction. And as you said, mental health, I mean, having that open does put a ton of pressure on you or your customers to like be glued to a computer, which is not good for
It was
anybody.
horrible. I had it for 1 year and then I was like, it's actually like killing my love for my company having this exist, you know?
And anything that is going to kill your love for your company, like looking and reevaluating. I know everyone talks about, and we started this conversation with social media. So this applies to social media. Like if it's killing your soul and does not make you, don't do it, or do like the minimum and provide as much value and keep that communication open. So bringing it back to social media of look at what you're actually posting, provide value, be unique. Who are you behind the scenes and how does your company, how would it benefit the other person on the other end, right? How is it going to benefit them? And really take a look at who you're talking to, the one person. Like Kate said, she's looking at more of the salon owner, refillery, surf shop, which I think is awesome. She's speaking to them and providing value for them, but it will bring in consumer based as well. So really getting clear and have that open communication in your, like, be real on there and don't get overwhelmed by the things. Like if you don't post for a little while, that's okay. Create those relationships. And I did want to say one thing about the email, because social or salon owners, we don't typically think about getting them off into email, because so owning an online business, being a coach and everything, I have that very much in my head of getting them off into an email. Salon owners typically don't. So having something there that would entice them, even if it's that they can't book like they're not ready to book an appointment, but some sort of value-driven information that would help your ideal client and getting them off social media and into your email inbox and provide value there. That is such a huge thing that salon owners do not take enough advantage of, because it's not just a client coming on and booking a service. It's how can you nurture them? Because nurturing them, they may wait a month or 2 years. Like they might have a stylist that they love, but then they're attracted to your brand. And then all of a sudden their stylist moves or they're not doing hair anymore. And guess who they're going to come back to? Somebody who has provided value to them, who has nurtured them and shown who they really are. Like that is such a big, big part that we don't take enough advantage of. And then that also gets you off of like the rat race of social media.
Yeah. And I would say it's just useful to also remind people.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're like, oh, who was that I went there and it was great. And then you do get an, not every day, but you get the occasional email that has something useful in it. And you're like, oh, I did love, we get a nice little, just small bump, even when we just send out, something sustainability related, because people are like, oh yeah, those guys. I've been meaning to buy something or go so I just think you can't underestimate and then being able to own that, not being reliant on a third party to put your information out to other people is huge.
Thank you for joining today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed the training, and if you have any questions about anything I talked about in today's training, or honestly anything I've talked about on this podcast, I want you to go to www.cleanbeautybiz.com/advisor, or you can click the link in the show notes where you can ask me any questions you have about this episode or anything else that I have covered on this podcast. Again, that link is www.cleanbeautybiz.com, and this amazing little tool allows you to get your specific questions answered by me 24/7. Mhm.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I think that we covered a lot in this episode, but the gist of it all is don't do things that you hate and suck your soul in business, because we've all been there, and see like how important it is to you, and creating a plan that is going to bring in communication and care and value for your clients and for you. So looking deeper, and don't listen to everybody telling you you have to be everywhere all the time. And that is not for everyone. You may see success, other people may see success with it, and great. What actually works for you? That's the big thing. So thank you again for being on this episode and, providing all the amazing insight and value that you both do. Like always, all their information's in the show notes. So make sure that you do follow them on social media and you get on their email list, because they have amazing products that you want to have in your salon or just experience. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Salon Owners Holistic Blueprint. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow and subscribe. Until next time, stay inspired, stay passionate, and keep thriving in the world of holistic beauty.